Picture this. You're at work and someone asks for a favor. Again. It's the third time this week. You say yes because that's what good people do, right? You help, you're kind, you're generous with your time. But here's what's really happening. They're not asking you because you're competent. They're asking you because you're weak. Because you can't say no. Because you've trained them to see you as the person who always gives in. And while you're congratulating yourself on being such a good person, they're going home laughing about how easy it was to manipulate you. Again, this isn't cynicism. This is reality. And if you can't handle that truth, you're already lost. 500 years ago, Niccolò Machiavelli wrote something that still makes people uncomfortable today. He said, "Men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that the one who deceives will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived." Translation? The world is full of predators, and they're hunting for one thing: weakness, your kindness. They see opportunity. Your forgiveness? They see a doormat. Your trust? They see a fool waiting to be exploited. Right now, as you're listening to this, someone in your life is calculating how to use your good nature against you. Your boss knows exactly which buttons to push to make you work overtime without extra pay. Your friend knows exactly how to make you feel guilty when you don't do what they want. Your romantic partner knows exactly which tears to cry to get you to apologize for their behavior. And the worst part? You're helping them do it. Every time you choose to be the bigger person, you're teaching them that you're the smaller one. Every time you turn the other cheek, you're showing them exactly where to aim next time. Every time you give someone the benefit of the doubt, you're giving them the benefit of your destruction. But here's the thing that nobody wants to tell you. The people who seem to effortlessly command respect, who never get walked on, who always seem to get what they want, they're not nicer than you. They're not more talented than you. They're not luckier than you. They just understand something you don't. They understand that in this world, you're either the hammer or the nail. You're either the hunter or the prey. You're either respected or you're used. And they chose which one they wanted to be. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince to create monsters. He wrote it to reveal the monsters that already existed, to show good people like you what you're really up against, to give you the tools to survive in a world that mistakes your virtue for vulnerability. Today, I'm going to share 6 lessons from Machiavelli that will fundamentally change how you see power, respect, and human nature. These aren't comfortable truths. They're not going to make you feel good about humanity, but they're going to make you strong. And strength is the only thing that stands between you and a lifetime of being used, manipulated, and discarded by people who learned these lessons long before you did. Comment below if you've ever realized someone took advantage of your kindness. Because if you have, you're ready for what comes next. Lesson 1. Power respects fear. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus was everyone's favorite manager. He brought donuts on Fridays. He remembered everyone's birthdays. He never raised his voice, never gave anyone a hard time, and always tried to be understanding when people made mistakes. Marcus genuinely believed that if he treated people well, they would respect him and work hard for him. Marcus was wrong. His team showed up late. They missed deadlines. They gossiped about him behind his back. They took long lunches and left early. And when the company needed someone to blame for the department's poor performance, guess who they threw under the bus? The man who had been nothing but kind to them. Meanwhile, down the hall there was Sarah. Sarah didn't bring donuts. She didn't remember birthdays. But when Sarah gave you a deadline, you met it. When Sarah called a meeting, everyone showed up on time. When Sarah needed something done, it got done immediately. Not because people loved Sarah, because they feared disappointing her. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Not because fear is inherently good, but because fear is reliable. Love is an emotion. It changes with the weather, with moods, with circumstances, but fear is consistent. Fear creates boundaries. Fear demands respect. Here's what nice people like Marcus don't understand. When you make yourself too available, too accommodating, too forgiving, you don't inspire love. You inspire contempt. Because deep down, people don't respect what they can easily control. Think about the relationships in your own life. The people you respect most. Are they the ones who always say yes to you? Or are they the ones who have clear boundaries, who won't tolerate disrespect, who make you work to earn their approval? You know the answer. This doesn't mean you have to become a tyrant. It means you have to become someone who values themselves enough to demand that others value them too. It means understanding that respect isn't given, it's commanded. When you set a boundary, people will test it. They'll push against it. They'll try to make you feel guilty for having it. And the moment you give in, the moment you make an exception just this once, you've taught them that your boundaries are suggestions, not rules. But when you hold firm, when you demonstrate that crossing your lines has consequences, something magical happens. They stop crossing them. Sarah's team didn't hate her. They respected her. They knew exactly where they stood with her. They knew what was expected of them. And because the consequences for failure were clear and immediate, they rarely failed. Marcus's team, on the other hand, lived in constant confusion. They never knew what Marcus really wanted because he never enforced what he said he wanted. So they did whatever they felt like doing, knowing that Marcus would clean up their messes and make excuses for their failures. Which manager would you rather work for? The one who lets you get away with anything, leaving you constantly uncertain about your performance, or the one who sets high standards and holds you accountable for meeting them? The answer reveals why fear, when properly applied, creates more security and respect than love ever could. But this goes deeper than just workplace dynamics. This is about how you show up in every relationship, every interaction, every moment where someone is deciding whether to treat you with respect or contempt. When you're feared, not because you're cruel, but because you're uncompromising in your standards, people know exactly how to succeed with you. They know what you expect. They know what happens if they don't deliver. And paradoxically, this clarity makes their lives easier, not harder. But that's just the beginning of what Machiavelli understood about human nature. Lesson 2. Mercy breeds contempt. James had a problem. His business partner, David, kept missing important meetings. Not occasionally, constantly. James would spend hours preparing presentations for potential investors, only to have David show up 30 minutes late, unprepared, and offering the same excuse he'd used the month before. The first time it happened, James was understanding. Traffic is unpredictable, he thought. The second time, he was concerned but compassionate. Maybe David is going through something personal. The third time, he was frustrated but chose to be the bigger person. I'll talk to him privately rather than embarrass him. By the 10th time, James had trained David to see him as someone whose time didn't matter. Someone whose disappointment had no consequences. Someone who would always forgive, always understand, always give another chance. And David took full advantage of that training. Here's the brutal truth about mercy that nobody wants to acknowledge. Excessive forgiveness doesn't make you virtuous. It makes you an enabler. Machiavelli observed, "Men are so thankful for benefits only while they are capable of requiting them. When they exceed that, instead of gratitude, they return hatred." Translation: when you make it too easy for people to wrong you without consequences, they begin to resent your very existence. Why? Because your constant forgiveness forces them to confront their own bad behavior. And most people would rather hate you than hate themselves. Think about the people in your life who have hurt you repeatedly. The ones who keep doing the same destructive things, offering the same hollow apologies and making the same empty promises to change. How do they treat you now compared to when you first met them? If you're honest, you'll admit that your relationship with them has gotten worse, not better. Your mercy didn't inspire them to become better people. It inspired them to become worse people. Because they learned that their actions don't have meaningful consequences. Meanwhile, They probably respect and fear disappointing people who showed them no mercy from the beginning. People who made it clear that bad behavior would result in immediate and permanent consequences. This is why Machiavelli wrote, "Hatred is gained as much by good works as by evil." When you consistently let people off the hook, they don't see a saint. They see a sucker. And they treat you accordingly. The people who command respect in your life didn't get there by being endlessly forgiving. They got there by being discerningly ruthless. When someone crossed them, there were immediate consequences. When someone betrayed their trust, they didn't get a second chance to do it again. And because of this, people learned to value their good opinion. People learned to fear losing their respect. People learned to behave better around them, not worse. Now, I'm not telling you to become heartless. I'm telling you to become strategic with your heart. To understand that mercy, like any powerful tool, becomes dangerous when used indiscriminately. Real mercy, the kind that actually helps people, comes with consequences attached. It says, "I forgive you this time, but if this happens again, we're done." It says, "I believe you can do better, and I'm going to hold you to that standard." It says, "My compassion has limits, and crossing them has costs." This kind of mercy actually helps people grow, because it creates stakes. It makes your good opinion something worth earning and keeping. It turns your forgiveness into something valuable rather than something expected. But unlimited mercy? Mercy without consequences? That doesn't help anyone. It enables the worst impulses in others while teaching them to disrespect your time, your feelings, and your boundaries. James learned this lesson the hard way. After months of David's continued disrespect, James finally gave him an ultimatum. Show up on time and prepared, or find a new business partner. David laughed it off, assuming James was bluffing. He showed up late to the next meeting. James kept his word. He bought out David's share of the business and found a new partner. Someone who understood that James's standards weren't suggestions. Guess what happened? David suddenly wanted to negotiate. He suddenly had explanations and promises and plans for improvement. But it was too late. James had learned that mercy without consequences isn't mercy, it's manipulation training in disguise. Here's the deeper truth that leads us directly to the next principle. Lesson 3. Control the illusion. The most powerful people you know aren't the ones who show you their true face. They're the ones who've mastered the art of showing you exactly the face you need to see. Meet Jennifer. At church, she's the compassionate volunteer who organizes food drives and visits sick parishioners. At work, she's the strategic executive who makes tough decisions and doesn't hesitate to cut underperforming employees. At home, she's the nurturing mother who prioritizes her children's needs above everything else. Which one is the real Jennifer? All of them. And none of them. Jennifer understands something that most people never learn. Authenticity is a luxury that only powerless people can afford. When you have real responsibility, real influence, real impact on other people's lives, you can't indulge in the fantasy of being the same person in every situation. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." This isn't about deception. This is about understanding that different situations require different versions of yourself, and the people who refuse to adapt are the people who get crushed by those who do. The person sitting next to you in that meeting, they're not showing you who they really are. They're showing you a carefully crafted version designed to achieve their objectives in that specific context. The person serving you at that restaurant? The person teaching your children? Is the person dating you? They're all performing. They're all managing impressions. They're all controlling the illusion. And the fact that you're not doing this consciously means you're the only one in the room who isn't playing the game, which makes you the easiest target. Here's what happens when you insist on just being yourself in every situation. You become predictable. People know exactly how you'll react to any given stimulus. They know which buttons to push to make you angry, which stories to tell to make you sympathetic, which tactics to use to get what they want from you. You become easy to manipulate. because you've eliminated the element of strategic unpredictability that keeps people guessing and keeps you in control. Meanwhile, the person who understands impression management keeps everyone slightly off balance. People can't quite figure them out. They can't predict their responses. They can't manipulate them effectively because they don't know which version of them they're dealing with at any given moment. This creates a psychological advantage that most people never recognize. When people can't read you completely, they assume you know something they don't. They assume you're more capable, more intelligent, more powerful than you might actually be, and often, that assumption becomes reality. But here's the crucial distinction that separates strategic impression management from simple dishonesty. You're not lying about who you are. You're choosing which aspects of who you are to emphasize in each situation. Jennifer really is compassionate, but she doesn't let her compassion interfere with business decisions that affect people's livelihoods. She really is strategic, but she doesn't bring that cold calculation into her interactions with people who need emotional support. She really is nurturing, but she doesn't let her protective instincts make her children weak and unprepared for the real world. Each version is authentic. Each version serves a purpose. Each version gets results that a single, unchanging personality never could. The people who master this understand that reputation is a tool, not an accident. They know that how others perceive them directly impacts what they can accomplish, so they manage those perceptions deliberately, strategically, and effectively. They let their colleagues see their competence but not their insecurities. They let their competitors see their confidence, but not their strategies. They let their family see their love, but not their professional ruthlessness. And because they control what people see, they control how people treat them. Would you rather people know the truth about you or believe the image you project? Comment below because this question reveals everything about your relationship with power. The weak believe that authenticity means showing everyone everything about themselves. The strong understand that authenticity means being genuine within the role that each situation requires. This leads us directly to the next principle. Because once you understand how to control what people see, you need to understand what to do when they challenge what you've built. Lesson 4. Crush enemies entirely. Michael made a mistake that cost him everything. His business rival Tom had been spreading rumors about Michael's company, stealing clients and undermining him in industry circles for months. When Michael finally gathered enough evidence to destroy Tom's reputation and business relationships, he chose to be merciful. Instead of releasing everything he had, Michael confronted Tom privately. He showed him just enough evidence to scare him and demanded that Tom stop his attacks and publicly apologize. Tom agreed immediately, seemed genuinely remorseful, and promised to make things right. Michael felt good about taking the high road. He felt mature, professional, and morally superior. 6 months later, Tom destroyed Michael's business completely. While Michael had been showing restraint, Tom had been preparing a more sophisticated attack. He used the time Michael had given him to cover his tracks, build new alliances, and create a plan that left Michael with no way to recover. Michael learned too late what Machiavelli meant when he wrote, "Men ought to be either well treated or crushed, because they can avenge themselves of lighter injuries, of more serious ones they cannot." This isn't about being cruel. This is about understanding that some conflicts cannot be resolved with compromise. Some enemies cannot be reformed with kindness. Some threats must be eliminated or they will eliminate you. Half measures don't create peace. They create breathing room for your enemies to become stronger. Here's the psychological reality that nice people refuse to accept. When someone has decided to destroy you, showing them mercy doesn't change their mind. It confirms their belief that you're too weak to stop them. Your restraint isn't interpreted as strength. It's interpreted as fear. Your mercy isn't seen as a virtue. It's seen as a vulnerability. Your desire to find a peaceful solution isn't respected. It's exploited. The person who has declared war on you isn't looking for peace. They're looking for victory. And every moment you spend trying to negotiate with them is a moment they spend figuring out how to defeat you more thoroughly. This applies to workplace politics, personal relationships, business competition, and any situation where someone has decided that your failure is necessary for their success. These aren't misunderstandings that can be cleared up with better communication. These are conflicts where someone has to win and someone has to lose. The people who understand this don't start fights, but when fights are brought to them, they finish them. Completely, permanently, finally. They don't leave wounded enemies who can recover and attack again. They don't show mercy to people who would show them none. They don't give second chances to people who use their first chance to try to destroy them. This is why successful people seem so ruthless to those who don't understand the game. It's not that they enjoy destroying others. It's that they understand the cost of leaving threats alive to fight another day. When someone proves they're willing to lie about you, steal from you, sabotage your work, or damage your reputation, they've told you everything you need to know about who they are and what they're capable of. Believing they'll change is not compassion. It's a delusion. Your response to these people cannot be proportional to their initial attack. It has to be overwhelming. It has to be final. It has to send a message to everyone watching that crossing you has consequences so severe that it's never worth the risk. This doesn't mean you become a bully or start conflicts with innocent people. It means that when someone brings a real conflict to you, when they try to harm you, your reputation, your livelihood, or your relationships, you respond with the full force necessary to ensure they never try it again. And you do it quickly, decisively, and completely. Because the alternative isn't peace. The alternative is a lifetime of being targeted by people who learned that you don't fight back effectively. Michael's story has a postscript. After Tom destroyed his business, Michael started over. And when the next person tried to undermine him, Michael didn't make the same mistake twice. He gathered his evidence, documented everything, and when he was ready, he didn't just stop the attack. He ended his attacker's career in that industry. Word spread quickly. Michael was no longer seen as an easy target. In fact, competitors started going out of their way to avoid conflicts with him entirely. This brings us to the deeper truth about how loyalty really works. Lesson 5. Manipulate loyalty. Rachel believed that loyalty was earned through kindness, trust, and treating people well. She was generous with promotions, flexible with schedules, and always willing to advocate for her team members when they made mistakes. She was shocked when 3 of her best employees left to work for her biggest competitor. Taking client lists, trade secrets, and insider knowledge with them, these weren't ungrateful people. These were people she had mentored, promoted, and trusted. People she had genuinely cared about and who seemed to genuinely care about her. But Rachel had made a fundamental error. She had confused affection with loyalty. She had assumed that because people liked her, they would stay loyal to her when someone offered them a better deal. She was wrong. Across town, Rachel's competitor Steve never had this problem. Steve's employees didn't just like him, they were bound to him. Not by warm feelings, but by strategic dependency. Steve made sure that his key employees' success was tied directly to his success. He gave them equity stakes in deals they worked on. He made them the public face of major victories. He connected their personal brands to his company's reputation, but he also made sure they understood the cost of betrayal. Non-compete clauses with real teeth. Information about their past mistakes that would surface if they ever tried to compete with him. Professional relationships that would evaporate if they crossed him. Steve's people stayed loyal not because they loved him more than Rachel's people loved her, but because leaving him would cost them more than staying ever could. Machiavelli understood this completely. He wrote, "Loyalty is never given freely. It is earned through a combination of benefits and consequences, hope and fear. Real loyalty isn't an emotion. It's a strategic calculation. People stay loyal when the benefits of loyalty outweigh the benefits of betrayal, and when the costs of betrayal outweigh the costs of staying. This means that if you want true loyalty, you can't just offer benefits. You have to create consequences. You can't just inspire love. You have to command respect. You can't just be someone people want to please. You have to be someone people can't afford to cross. Here's how this works in practice. The people who command the deepest loyalty in any organization don't just reward good behavior. They make themselves indispensable to the people they want to keep. They become the source of their people's opportunities, their professional growth, their industry connections, and their reputation in the field. They create a situation where betraying them doesn't just mean losing a job, it means losing a career. But they also become the people their team members genuinely want to succeed. Not through manipulation, but through alignment. They make it clear that everyone wins when the organization wins and everyone loses when it fails. This creates a much stronger bond than affection ever could. It creates mutual investment, shared risk, common purpose. The people who matter most to your success aren't the ones who like you most. They're the ones who need your success for their own success. They're the ones who would lose something valuable if you failed. This is why the most successful leaders don't just build teams, they build ecosystems. Networks of people whose interests are so intertwined with theirs that betrayal becomes practically impossible. They don't just offer jobs, they offer partnerships. They don't just give paychecks, they create stakeholders. They don't just inspire loyalty, they engineer it. But here's the crucial element that separates strategic relationship building from simple manipulation. The benefits have to be real. The opportunities have to be genuine. The success has to be shared. You're not tricking people into loyalty. You're creating conditions where loyalty serves everyone's interests. Rachel learned this lesson and rebuilt her team differently. She still cared about her people, but she also made sure they had skin in the game. Equity in deals they generated, public recognition that enhanced their personal brands, professional development that was valuable but tied to staying with the company. She also made it clear that leaving wouldn't just mean losing a job, it would mean losing access to the network, the opportunities and the professional growth that came with being part of her organization. The result? A team that wasn't just happy but invested. People who didn't just like working for her, but who understood that their best path to success ran through her success. This understanding of loyalty brings us to the final and most important lesson. Lesson 6. Weakness invites change. David lived his entire adult life asking permission. Permission to speak up in meetings. Permission to pursue his ideas. Permission to ask for what he wanted in relationships. Permission to take risks that might advance his career. He told himself this was being respectful, considerate, and collaborative. But what he was really afraid of was afraid of conflict, afraid of rejection, afraid of responsibility, afraid of making the wrong choice and having to live with the consequences. So he let other people make his choices for him. His boss decided what projects he worked on. His wife decided where they lived. His friends decided how he spent his free time. His parents decided how he should feel about his life choices. David thought he was avoiding the burden of difficult decisions. But what he was really doing was handing control of his life to people who had their own interests, their own agendas, their own reasons for wanting him to stay exactly where he was. By the time David realized what had happened, he was 45 years old and living someone else's life entirely. Every major decision had been made by someone else. Every opportunity had been filtered through someone else's priorities. Every risk had been evaluated by someone else's fear. He had become a slave to other people's comfort with his mediocrity. Machiavelli warned about this centuries ago. The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. But the deeper truth hidden in this observation is that weak people don't choose their circumstances choose them. When You refuse to make hard decisions, life makes them for you. When you avoid taking responsibility for your choices, other people take responsibility for your life. When you won't advocate for yourself, you end up living according to other people's advocacy for their own interests. This is the most insidious form of slavery ever created. It doesn't require chains or guards or physical force. It only requires your willingness to let other people be stronger than you are. Every time you avoid a difficult conversation, you give someone else power over your peace of mind. Every time you accept treatment you don't deserve because confronting it would be uncomfortable, you train people to treat you worse. Every time you choose the safe path over the right path, you make yourself smaller and more dependent on other people's approval. The people who seem to effortlessly command respect and get what they want aren't necessarily smarter or more talented than you. They just understood something you didn't. That in this world, you get what you have the strength to take and the courage to keep. They learn to make their own decisions and live with the consequences. They learn to advocate for themselves even when it made other people uncomfortable. They learn to choose their own priorities instead of inheriting someone else's. Most importantly, they learned that the temporary discomfort of asserting themselves was nothing compared to the lifelong suffering of living as someone else's dependent. Here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to acknowledge. Every person in your life who has power over you wants to keep that power. Your boss doesn't want you to become confident enough to negotiate better terms or leave for a better opportunity. Your romantic partner doesn't want you to become attractive enough to have other options. Your friends don't want you to become successful enough to outgrow their social circle. They benefit from your dependence. They profit from your insecurity. They thrive on your need for their approval. And as long as you keep giving them that power, they'll keep using it to keep you exactly where you are. Breaking free from this pattern requires more than just changing your behavior. It requires changing your entire relationship with discomfort, conflict, and other people's opinions of you. It means learning to make decisions based on what you want, not what others want you to want. It means learning to set boundaries even when people react badly to them. It means learning to pursue your own interests even when doing so disappoints people who prefer you, weak and accommodating. This is why Machiavelli's lessons are so powerful and so disturbing. They force you to confront the reality that most of your problems aren't caused by bad luck or unfair circumstances. They're caused by your unwillingness to do what strong people do naturally. The chains that bind you aren't made of metal. They're made of your own fear of what might happen if you stopped asking permission to live your own life. Empowering climax. Choose ruthless strength. So here we are. 6 lessons that reveal the game everyone else is playing while you've been sitting on the sidelines, wondering why life feels so hard, why people take advantage of you, and why you never seem to get what you deserve. The answer is simple. You've been playing by rules that don't exist. You've been trying to win a game of chess while everyone else is playing poker. You've been showing all your cards while they've been hiding theirs. You've been hoping for fairness in a world that rewards strategy. And now you have a choice. You can close this video, go back to your life and keep pretending that niceness will eventually be rewarded, that fairness will eventually prevail, that good things happen to good people just because they're good. Or you can accept the reality that Machiavelli revealed 500 years ago. The world belongs to those who understand power, respect those who wield it effectively, and have no mercy for those who refuse to learn. Every person who has ever commanded your respect, every leader you've ever admired, every success story you've ever envied, they all learned these lessons. Not because they were born different from you, but because they were willing to see the world as it actually is instead of how they wished it would be. They learned that strength isn't about being cruel to others. It's about being uncompromising with yourself. It's about holding yourself to standards so high that other people have no choice but to rise to meet them or remove themselves from your life. They learned that respect isn't earned through kindness. It's commanded through consistency. through keeping your word when it's convenient and especially when it's not, through creating consequences that people believe you'll enforce because you've proven you will. They learned that loyalty isn't inspired through generosity alone. It's engineered through mutual benefit, strategic alignment, and the kind of value creation that makes betraying you cost more than it could ever be worth. They learned that mercy isn't a virtue when extended to people who see it as weakness. Real mercy is reserved for those who deserve it, not wasted on those who exploit it. They learned that authenticity doesn't mean showing everyone everything about yourself. It means being genuinely excellent in whatever role each situation requires, without apology or explanation. And they learned that freedom isn't something the world gives you. It's something you take from a world that profits from your dependence and fears your independence. The person you were when you started watching this video, that person was trained to lose. Trained to accept less than they deserve. Trained to make everyone else comfortable at the expense of their own power. The person you could become, that person understands that the world respects strength, rewards strategic thinking, and has infinite opportunities for those bold enough to seize them. But becoming that person requires more than just understanding these principles. It requires the courage to apply them even when doing so makes other people uncomfortable. Especially when it makes other people uncomfortable. Because the moment you start setting real boundaries, demanding real respect, and refusing to accept treatment that doesn't serve you, every person who has been benefiting from your weakness will try to pull you back down. They'll call you selfish for putting your interests first. They'll call you cold for refusing to let emotion override strategy. They'll call you manipulative for doing openly what they've been doing to you in secret for years. And in that moment, you'll discover who really supports your success and who has been invested in your failure all along. The people who celebrate your new strength, who respect your new boundaries, who rise to meet your new standards, those are your allies. Keep them close. The people who resent your transformation, who try to guilt you back into weakness, who liked you better when you were easier to control. Those people have just revealed themselves as enemies you didn't know you had. This is your moment of choice. Will you go back to being someone who hopes the world will be fair to them, or will you become someone who makes the world bend to your will through the intelligent application of these timeless principles? Will you keep asking permission to live your own life, or will you start taking what's yours with the confidence of someone who understands that strength respects strength, power responds to power, and the world belongs to those bold enough to claim it? Which of these 6 lessons hit you the hardest, and which one will you start applying today? Drop your answer in the comments, because the people who commit publicly to change are the ones who actually follow through. And if this video opened your eyes to the game you've been losing without realizing you were playing it, hit that like button and subscribe, because there's more where this came from. And the people who are ready to learn these lessons are the people who will inherit the world that the weak are too afraid to claim. Remember this: Machiavelli didn't create the rules. He just dared to write them down. The question is, do you have the courage to live by them?